Hey everybody, Johnny5 Alive here, and welcome to a video series where I showcase what I found to be the best in slot min-max build for one of the 12 Midnight Suns heroes. I will also give a quick review of all the hero abilities to show what other potential fun build options the hero may have, or reveal the thought process that ultimately led me to the one and only best choice to min-max said hero. Once we have given an overview of the hero, I will give a tier list rating in direct comparison to the other 12 heroes. We'll also mention what battle items and heroes synergize best with this build. This is a 1 of 12 part series. If you end up finding this video informative or helpful in any ways, please check the video description for a full playlist of my series for Midnight Suns, and also don't forget to like and subscribe. So let's get into today's hero. Today's hero is probably everyone's favorite hero, as she's so likable and has the darkest and most touching backstory, and that is Magik. Ileana's core design was intended to be somewhat a pseudo support in her ability to manipulate enemies and the battlefield through her usage of the limbo portals. Portals is her mojo. It's her core fantasy, and nearly her entire kit is based around the fact that she can create portals into the limbo realm. Through this, she is able to send enemies to and from limbo to anywhere on the battlefield she sees fit. You could use this in ways to knock enemies into allies to draw cards, knock enemies into obstacles such as generators, which will then leave them stunned and they will miss a turn, or simply knock them out of existence entirely. Through all this functionality between drawing cards, crowd controlling enemies, it definitely adds support to your team, which is why she's classified as such. But she also has a ton of potential in terms of dealing damage, and she can be played as a pure damage dealing character as well. However, in my opinion, her overall damage output is not nearly as critical as majority of the heroes in the game, and the support she offers, while meaningful in the early and mid game, tends to fall short in the end game. Not to mention any CC or support that she brings early on comes at the cost of card plays that you will likely not get a refund on. So you're certainly paying the price for her support. And generally, the other heroes that support can offer that for a reduced cost, if not free. So leading into her tier list ranking compared to the other heroes, I feel without mods, she falls in the lowest of the B tier, which is certainly very generous and nothing to scoff at. And with mods, I certainly promote her into the A tier for sure, but majority, if not all the other heroes in the A and S tier outshine her in the damage department, and generally even offer more support, as CCing enemies is no longer as important in the late game, as dead enemies don't deal damage. So there's no need to CC things as heavily in the late game. But just because some heroes rank higher than Magik doesn't mean she sucks by any means. B and A tier are amazing ranks for an amazing hero. And even though other heroes have that wow factor in the damage department, Magik has the fun factor in the gameplay department. Every time you pick this hero up, you're going to have a blast. Not to mention, she's just a complete badass.
Yes, I know. I'm a badass.
So hopping into game here, the first things first, let's take a look at her passive Relay level 2, 25% chance to generate a limbo portal card after an enemy is knocked back through a limbo portal. This is something I hope to see gets improved in future DLC, getting an epic and legendary, maybe increasing those chances to 50 or 75%, because she definitely relies on those limbo portals. The one downside to this, however, it is not a upgraded limbo portal. An upgraded limbo portal gives you on redraw +1 moves this turn, which is nice because if you have too many limbo portals in your hand, you can redraw them for that move, allowing her to get into position to knock somebody back into something. It's a nice little bonus, but the important thing to note is that you're modding your limbo portals, which a default Relay will not come attached with, but they are still nice to have. And every time that I've gotten a Relay proc, I've tended to use the limbo portal because it is a free card after all, and in the worst case scenario you can redraw it to get a different card, so that is also a really nice effect. Let's take a look at my profile for Magik here. We've been on 30 missions together in terms of her and Hunter. She's KO'd 200 enemies, so she hasn't gotten as much play as the other heroes in my series so far, but she's definitely getting some good use. And you can see my most played card on her is the Quick Soul Slash and the Limbo Portal, which is her bread and butter. Those two abilities are definitely her go-to best stuff, and we're going to talk about that here next. Before we do that, let's take a look at her stats, her overall stats, what I recommend and what you should level up. You can see my hero champion level in the top right hand corner is level 23 with a 22 friendship, so she's getting definitely some use out of playing with her. However, the only thing you might need to upgrade on her is her strength, her knockback distance. In the case that you're not using a Limbo Portal, you want to be able to send them flying back, and she is generating a ton of plus moves this turn. She's getting the ability to reposition. Oftentimes I've built up my moves to 5-6 moves in a turn, and I could really put her wherever I want, and being able to knock enemies into allies, into obstacles, off cliffs, whatever I want to do, I can move to wherever I need to do that, and I'm not relying on the Limbo Portals. However, if you are knocking them through Limbo Portals, you don't really need the knockback distance because the distance is through that of Limbo. It's not a huge priority to upgrade her strength, and this does cap at 50%, so I'm 40 out of 50 here, but I'm definitely going to get that up because that is her core feature. In terms of crit chance and crit damage, the only thing that's going to see use out of this is your kick ability, or if you're using the gather ability or anything like that, she will see some use out of that as well. But her quick soul slashes actually don't do damage, and when they go through the Limbo Portals, if you upgrade the portals to do damage, they do not do crit damage. So she really doesn't get a whole lot of value out of crit chance and crit damage, so you really don't have to worry about that. Lastly, you can upgrade her power to 25%. If you like the gather ability, this will increase the radius of it, and it is a pretty fun ability, so you can do that. Now, I do think resilience is pretty important. You can cap this at, I believe, 60%, because when we're going to be talking about her Dark Child ability, which is like an amazing legendary ability, one of the coolest ones in the game, she's still not resistant to crowd control effects, curses, and weaknesses, and that sort of thing. So if she's going to be played as a pseudo tank where she draws the attention of everybody and tanks that all, you want to definitely have that resilience up to 60% so she can make use out of her Dark Child to the fullest. My biggest recommendations for her is strength and resilience. However, you're going to probably want to upgrade strength and resilience on some of your other characters first, so she's lower priority because she only uses them in niche ways. Okay, let's go talk about my build and what I found to be the most effective. Obviously, we should start with the Limbo Portal. Create a portal. It's free. You could redraw it to gain an extra move, and the mod that I put on this is Draw the Last Attack Played. Draw Last Attack Played is a nice workaround to get a draw card on a free card. You cannot mod this to draw a hero card, draw 2 cards. You can't do any of that, but you can mod it to Draw the Last Attack Played. This is especially important because once you've used your Quick Soul Slash to knock an enemy through a portal, you want to be able to use your Limbo Portal to not only create another portal to knock them through with, but to get the ability to knock them through the portal again. And you create a kind of a never-ending momentum of drawing your Quick Soul Slash to knock them through Limbo Portals, and hopefully proccing Relay to get another Limbo Portal if you don't have one in your hand. So moving over to her Quick Soul Slash, it is a knockback, it's quick, and it gives you +1 moves this turn. The +1 moves this turn is amazing because it allows you to avoid using Limbo Portals. If you don't have a Limbo Portal, you can still reposition her, knock them into an ally for an extra card draw. If it's a minion and they die, you trigger the quick. You get what I've modified this to draw a Magik card, and then because they're knocked into an ally, you've potentially drawn an ally's card as well. So that is amazing. It's basically a draw 2 card quick attack, and it gives you an extra move. The hope is that you end up drawing a Limbo Portal with that card, which you then play to redraw your Quick Soul Slash, giving you that, again, infinite momentum. If you could run 3 Soul Slashes, I would, but you can't, so the next best option is Kick, modified it to be quick. But the nice thing about Kick is it actually, as you can see in the top left corner of this card, it does do 216 damage. Whereas Quick Soul Slash doesn't do any damage at all. So if you did have your crit and crit chance built up, this has a chance to be 70% more damage, and it is a hefty chunk of damage. Because this card costs a card play, you want to modify it to be quick, because if you do kill somebody with this, you will get the card play refunded. How I would recommend using Kick is to kick a big unit through a portal into a minion, so that it guarantees that when it goes through the portal, it kills something, refunding the card play of kick. This is one of her main sources of damage. The next main source of damage is going to be actually that of her Limbo's Grasp. So this also creates a Limbo portal. It's the exact same portal as the Limbo portal, but this, for the rest of the mission, it adds 216 damage to enemies knocked through any portal. So it's going to continuously buff and make your portal stronger and stronger. That 216 damage is equivalent to that of a kick. So if you have managed to put a Limbo's Grasp down and then you kick them, you're doing what, 432 damage, knocking an enemy through a portal, and whatever they get hit into on the other side that dies, you're going to get the card play refunded. So you could do damage to an enemy, kill an enemy, and it's quite a nice combo. If you play enough Limbo's Grasps, they stack on each other, so it's 216 plus 216 plus 216. I've managed to play 3, 4, 5 Limbo's Grasps in a single game because I'm playing so many quick soul slashes that I'm drawing them from my deck. So eventually you can kick an enemy through a portal with a kick and do potentially 1200 damage, which is really nothing to scoff at. That'll kill most of the enemies or take a big chunk off some of the bigger enemies. As a bonus, if you kick it into an ally and it dies, you will get the card draw, but the stronger the ally is, the more damage they do when someone's knocked into them. So if you have a hunter, for example, like mine, that's level 258 right now currently, she will do, I think, like 380 damage or something to the enemy knocked into her. So that's a nice way to get another additional 400 damage to the 1200 that you've built up. And now you're almost killing anything on the map, which is her main source of damage dealing, which is really single target. So that's pretty much my build. I want to get everything quick and then build as many portals as possible, and I'm really leaning into the idea of the Limbo portal. I want as many portals, so I have 2 Limbo's Grasps, 2 Limbo portals, and then my relays on top of that, and that just increases my odds and chances of having portal play with a portal themed character. So I really just wanted to lean into that of what makes Magik magic. Last but not least, we have the Dark Child. You gain 1 invulnerable, which means she's invincible, and she gains 1 counter, and she taunts all enemies. Basically, the enemies lose a turn. They all are going to hit her. She's going to counter attack, doing damage to them, and it's amazing. And this is what I talked about with the resilience stat. You do want your resilience up, because if an enemy dazes her, stuns her, curses her, does whatever to her, she's going to have all those effects stacked on top of her going into her turn. However, you can use, through research in this game, you can use one of your moves to cure a character. And because she generates so many moves, you could use that move to cure her, and she's most likely going to get it back when she uses her quick slash. One thing I forgot to mention, you could also use that move, because you could always use one move to knock an enemy back, and that counts as traveling through a Limbo portal. So if in the case that you don't have a quick slash or a kick, you can always use your move to knock an enemy through a Limbo portal, further playing into that Limbo build that much more. But yeah, Dark Child is an absolutely amazing ability. I love it. It's so cool. I've modded this to draw a card. I believe you can actually mod this to be free, which would also work, because if you have this in your hand but you ran out of card plays, you could still use it. But I find, you know, if I'm going to use it and I have 1 card play left, I might as well just pop it off and let the enemies do what they're going to do. If you've managed to get this with free and you've gotten use out of all 3 of your card plays, there's a good chance everything on the battlefield is dead, so you're not really going to get any value to Dark Child anyways. So you might as well use a card play, have a slightly less effective first turn so that you get more value to Dark Child. And as a bonus, this is modded to draw a card. It replaces itself with a new card, which is hopefully a Limbo portal or a quick slash. That's how I've decided to mod it, but honestly, I don't really get much value to Dark Child. Most of the time I end up just killing everything, and this is just sitting in my hand. So there is an argument to be made that you could run a second kick or something else entirely. It's definitely nice. It's good just to be there. So and it's just really fun. And one thing I did forget to mention is Magik has like the coolest Midnight Sun skin. You know, it's right there on the Dark Child card. She has the most amazing skin of all the Midnight Suns. That big golden arm, the golden rings on her, the giant like horn helmet helmet thing that she's got going on there. She looks like a demon straight from the Limbo. It's freaking phenomenal. So I gotta mention that here where I don't in my other hero reviews, that this skin is definitely S tier of all of the heroes. It's the best one in my opinion. So let's head over to the Forge and talk about her other abilities and what potential builds and things you can do with those. There's Soul Blast. It's forceful knockback. It generates 1 heroism. Upgraded on KO, you gain 1 counter. In the case that you need to counter, it's because you play Darkchild and Darkchild gives you a counter. So I really don't see much value in Soul Blast. Sure, you could play that instead of Kick, but Kick does damage by default, while Soul Blast just has forceful knockback. And with how many moves she has, there's a good chance you're going to be able to position her into whatever you want to knock them back into, and you don't need it to be forceful. So I don't really see any use out of this. It's not the greatest card in my opinion. So Gather, really cool card. Upgraded, it has an increased area of effect. It damages and moves each enemy in an area towards its center, and it does 140 damage, which really isn't that much. So one of the things I tried modding this to have is +1 mark to all enemies, making her add a little bit of support to the team. And there's an argument to be had that you could run that instead of Darkchild, just so she has a little bit of utility, adding mark to the team, and she kind of clumps them all up. But generally I find that like their radius isn't that massive. Even if you were to upgrade her AoE radius by 25%, yeah, she can get a group of enemies in a circle to gather them up. But generally speaking, if they're all in an area where you can pull them to the middle, there's a good chance that they were all close enough for that person to do damage to all of them anyways. So you're just kind of clumping them up more, which can be useful when you clump them in front of an obstacle and then you knock that obstacle through all of them, or, you know, stuff like that. There are some rare situations where I find this could be cool. I thought adding mark to it would be kind of valuable, but then I never really got much value out of it. So I really love this card. I love the concept of this card, but for whatever reason, there's something missing on there that really makes it impactful. Maybe if it did a lot more damage, I don't know, maybe if it drew some cards. I can't really quite tell what it's missing to make it good, but for plain one card play, it doesn't really feel like it ever gets much done. Like I said, the one case where you clump them up into an obstacle where you knock it into them and it just does devastating amounts of damage, then that works. I haven't really gotten a lot of value out of this in the end game, but when I was playing the game, leveling up, and, you know, I was trying out all of our abilities, there are a few times I used this and I was like, oh, that was cool. So yeah, that's how I feel about that one. Next up, we didn't look at Banish. Upgraded, replace an enemy or an ally with a drop until next turn. So this basically turns an enemy into a hole in the ground, or it turns an ally into a hole in the ground. And this is good for if you have someone on your team that taunted everybody. You can now drop them into nowhere, into limbo for a while. The enemies won't know what to do, so they basically lose a turn. So you could definitely run this instead of Darkchild for the reasons I said, that I don't really see much value to Darkchild. This also would run in the same situation because everything's generally dead, so who are you hiding from? Who are you banishing? But where you can get value out of this more frequently than Darkchild is the fact that you can banish an enemy as a drop. So if there's one guy left on the map and you're about to end your turn or whatever, you're coming close to running out of card plays, and he's going to do massive damage to one of your allies, or it's like a villain, like a fallen Venom or something, you can just drop them and they'll miss their turn. I mean, it's definitely an amazing CC. I can see the value in it, and it is a good card, undoubtedly. I just don't run it in my deck personally. Trapdoor, upgraded. This is just does more damage. So Trapdoor, you move an enemy and that's it. And the sad thing about this, and I'm really mad at the developers, it doesn't kick them through a limbo portal. So all these limbo graphs that you're upgrading the damage of portals and stuff doesn't apply to the trapdoor they fall through, because they fall through the ground and then they fall through the sky and you just move them somewhere. But for whatever reason, this only buffs the horizontal portals. So in the case that Trapdoor actually received the buff from Limbo's Grasp, I would then say this has value, and I think it should be updated so that it does receive the buff from Limbo Portal, because that should be the whole concept of this character. It really devalues Limbo's Grasp, or just feels kind of left out from the fact that it's not included in a Limbo's Grasp. For that reason, I don't like running this card. Otherwise, I would. I think it's kind of cool being able to move an enemy around. But yeah, not much room in her deck for that. Kick is still better in my opinion, because it will serve for kicking them through a portal where Trapdoor doesn't. And that portal has increased damage, so you're just losing damage by going with Trapdoor. Next, we have Reinforcement. Summon a hero from the Abbey for 1 turns, upgraded its 2 turns, and it will also draw 2 of their cards. So this is a cool card, because you could just summon Iron Man and win the game. Because Iron Man's freaking broken. Honestly, it's just a weird card, but it's kind of cool. The developers obviously felt that they needed to do this, because the whole thing is you're summoning people from the Abbey to go on missions. The 3 heroes all travel through the Limbo Portal. Magik is the integral part of this whole game. I mean, without her, we wouldn't be able to do anything. We wouldn't even be able to get back to the Abbey. The fact that she could summon someone from an ally plays into her theme just so well. However, it's just not worth the value. You're using a card play. You can't upgrade this to be... Maybe you could upgrade it to be free? No, because it draws cards. Generally, a card that draws cards cannot be free, and free card... Yeah, so I don't think you can get free on this. I haven't tried, but I believe you can't, because I've tried with other cards to draw, and it's just not the case. It's kind of one of the rules. So it's going to cost you a card play to summon a character, and in my opinion, if there's a character that you needed, why didn't you just bring them on the mission? I don't know. I guess it gives you room to have a 4-man team for 2 turns, but the downside to that is now you have a 1 in 4 chance to draw a Magic card instead of a 1 in 3 chance, because you have a team of 4 people bloating your deck now. In most card games, it's never a good idea to bloat your deck, and that's what this does. If I could make a message to the developers, I would change this so that it's innately free, or that it increases your card plays to like 4. Effectively, you summon the ally for free for the cost of 4 heroism, so not entirely free, and the effect is that you're drawing 2 cards and they're able to jump in and support the team. Because if you look at Doctor Strange's Agamotto's Gaze, for example, what does this card do? It draws the last 2 attacks played, it generates heroism, and you start the next turn with 4 card plays. And upgraded, it also buffs the 2 cards that you draw. So Agamotto's Gaze, being a common card that generates 2 heroism, also draws 2 cards and gives you an extra free card play. Whereas the Reinforcement costs you 4 heroism to draw 2 cards. You lose a card play. So Doctor Strange's common card is way more epic and legendary than Reinforcement, but the effect of drawing someone from the Abbey is cool. But I don't think it's worth the price that you pay for cool. So I'm a little bit disappointed in this card, and I would definitely like to use it over Darkchild if it were cheaper and it did better effects. It's a cool card. It goes with her theme really, really well, but I think it needs to be relooked at by the developers to make it valuable or add some potency to it. In this series, I also talk about what battle items go good with a hero. Honestly, with Magik, I find that the only thing she really needs is the utility belt. It allows you to draw 2 of her hero cards, meaning you can get that quick soul slash, you can get that Limbo Portal, and that just allows you to ensure that you're getting that portal play like started. If you don't draw her cards, you don't have anything to get her going. The utility belt is going to allow you to do that. Pretty much everything else is fine. Like I don't really feel like she needs anything. The utility belt is just the best thing, and she's pretty self-sufficient. She doesn't really require any battle items other than that. You can also go with the draw 4 cards, which is fine too. And last but not least, who does Magik pair well with on the roster here? I really like pairing her with Wanda, and that's mainly because Wanda has the Chaos Reigns, and that you selected a group of enemies when it's modded to be free. You could just select a giant group of enemies and they all fight each other for free. So what you could do with Magik is you keep kicking them into one location, and you pile them up, and that allows Scarlet Witch to come in and make them all battle each other. Now with Wanda, Wanda marks enemies, so I thought that would be like a nice addition. However, everything that Magik does is quick anyways. It's quick attack. So if you end up killing someone, you're gonna get the card play free anyways, but I mainly play her for the Chaos Reigns. That's why I match them up together. So with that said, Magik doesn't really need to be paired with people who mark, like Iron Man or Blade or anybody like that, because of all our attacks being quick anyways. So you definitely have room to pair her with like someone like Doctor Strange, obviously Hunter, and that sort of thing. But I find most of the other heroes that are tanks, they pair well with Doctor Strange, they pair well with someone that mark. Big DPS pair well with people who mark, and obviously pair well with Hunter, that it sort of leaves Magik in limbo. Pun intended. I feel kind of bad. I find that I love pairing her with Scarlet. Anyone else I'm not too crazy about, to be honest. She's an added support. She adds damage. Unless you're bodying her gather to actually mark enemies, or you're changing her build up so that she's also a mark support, she won't really bring value to those other damage dealers, because those damage dealers would rather be paired with a better support who can mark for free. So for me, the only real two options for Magik that I enjoy personally is Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and Hunter, which is why my Magik is only level 20. I just find that there's not a lot of situations where I'm like, I need to bring Magik here. She usually only goes on missions that are intended for her, and I'll grab Doctor Strange or Wanda to back her up. Generally, usually Wanda, which is, she's like level 100 now in my game. So that's a bit unfortunate. I would like to see the developers push her ability to support the team a little bit higher. As we look through some of her cards, I think some of them could be improved further. She has a few weak cards in there, and I'd like to see a few little buffs, because she is one of my favorite characters, and I'd like to see her work well with more of the characters, and maybe even, like I said, have her the ability to mark enemies like the other supports. That would really take her to the next level, in my opinion. But she's an overall very solid hero. She's a complete badass.
Yes, I know. I'm a badass.
And I can't help but love the character regardless of some of my critiques and negatives. Boom. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's my overview of Magik. If you're wondering how I got some of these mods on my cards so easily, I have a whole guide for modding cards for the cheapest resources possible. That you can find that in the description below, as well as my Marvel Midnights playlist. If you found any of this helpful, fun, informative, please do leave a like and subscribe. We're doing a series for all of the heroes, so tune back in for that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Johnny5 Alive, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.